Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Som TV podcast. My name is Jason Wise. On today's podcast, we are going to talk about something that is hugely in the news. I mean, it's inescapable in every regard, and that is the continuation of tariffs. And if you are listening to this podcast, you probably drink wine, you probably eat food, you probably care about those two things. On a previous episode, I had Jessica Dupuy, a writer who had written something for Forbes about the threat of tariffs. But on today's pod, I'm going to have Jonah Beer, who is with me right now. Jonah, how are you?
Hello, buddy. I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking and for bringing my depression to my afternoon with this wonderful topic.
Listen, Jonah, I know many know we do these wine cameo podcasts, of which we thank you enormously for sending us in private messages and everywhere other things. We have another episode of that coming very shortly. But Jonah's also an importer of wine, and Jonah, you have imported wine for a substantial amount of time, correct? I mean, It's been a while.
Yeah, we're on about 10 years. It's the company is called True North Wine Merchants. All due fairness, because not only is your mother listening to this one, but my wife's going to be listening to this one because she really runs the company, right? Like True North is, we started it together 2014. And it was really kind of out of response to, she had been with Duckhorn Wine Company for a long time, and it was a chance for us to do something that we really wanted to do, which was import wines from our two favorite wine regions. And if anyone's ever watched or listened to our podcast on the wine draft, where we drafted regions and grapes, it'll come as no surprise that two of our favorites are Burgundy and Piedmont. And so, we started out with this idea of let's be the small two-person operation that covers the state of California, selling Burgundy and Barolo to wine shops and restaurants, and do it where it's just kind of like that old Chambers and Chambers or Kermit Lynch days of, going over to Europe, finding these small family operations and bringing them back and telling their story and introducing them to an audience, a thirsty audience. And so started in 2014. I think we haven't added anyone to the book recently. She's really happy with the size and shape, and it's 18 brands, mostly Piedmont and Burgundy, and then a couple domestic things as well. But it's been a journey, and it's certainly been a ride because we've had to figure it all out from scratch and kind of piece it together. So we're as close to the mechanics of it as anyone can be because we don't have employees and we don't outsource anything. It's really her and the wineries and us working through the mechanics of all the needs of the federal government and the state government and everyone that gets involved. So we're certainly hands-on, especially my wife, Sarah.
Look, we joke around a lot on this pod, but this is probably one of the more serious ones you and I will have. Not that we can't joke around, but you're uniquely positioned because as a small importer, I want to have a discussion about, I'm not entirely sure. None of these actual tariffs have happened as of the recording of this.
Right.
We just saw Mexico and Canada avert the 30 days before that's going to happen. And it's widely been reported that these tariffs that are being, we'll focus on wine. Don't get me wrong here, but across the board would probably put these countries into a recession. Something like 80% of Mexico's exports go to the United States. And this led me to, the incredible researcher that I am, Google really fast, just has a tariff trade war threat thing ever worked in the history of the world, basically. I mean, just trying to find an example where this has been a beneficial, it literally has never worked. Never. It has never, ever in the history of any nations fighting with each other using tariffs. And I'm talking going back to the 1200s when, England is bringing in port from Portugal or bringing in mercenaries from Germany or something like that. And they would tariff on all that stuff. It didn't work then. And it still doesn't work now.
Yeah.
I will try not to get too political on this, but what is the reality for you bringing wines into the country? And I'm assuming you're not sending any wines to foreign countries, right? You're basically just bringing things in?
Yeah. So that's, yes, we are not in the import export business as much as Costanza and I discussed this at length. We decided to focus just on the imports and not the exports. And thankfully, Julie Louis-Dreyfus was right on board. So,
That's right.
I think it's a nice, good Seinfeld deep cut. Okay, so we lived through it once, right? So yes, the prospect of what's coming up and may or may not come to fruition, and certainly my full-throated support is in the not come to fruition camp. But we did live through it the first time around under this administration.
The
4 years
Trump,
ago,
the previous Trump administration.
Previous Trump administration, yeah. So we certainly have felt it before and seen what happens. And I would say that kind of like what's happening now, one of the hardest parts is the uncertainty of everything. Is it going to happen? It's going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. It's going to be this amount. It's going to be half that. If you're trying to do any sort of business plan, you have to throw that out, right? You have to crumple it up and it's done. So you're just kind of really left unawares, which means you can't establish proper pricing because, as everyone probably knows, and I'm sure everyone of your informed listeners or listener knows, that the tariffs are not paid by the Italian winery or the French winery that we're buying wine from. It's paid by us, an American company, and we pass along that tax to the consumer. It's the Italians and the French bear no burden from these tariffs. None of it hits them. It's us. We pay the tariffs.
But in fairness, it would hit them. Wine is such a unique product. So you can walk all over what I'm about to say, but it would hit them in that market probably dries up. If you're Gerard Bertrand and you make a ton of Côte de Roses and it's in every grocery store in America, this might be a problem, right?
This might be a problem.
You're importing, I don't think so. Right.
Well, there's not a lot of product substitution, one-for-one product substitution in the minds of the people that buy our wines, especially Premier Cru Burgundy, right? If you're in the mood for Gevrey Chambertin Premier Cru, you're not going to go, well, the price went up 25%. Let me grab this bottle of Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir. And that's the argument that was laid at our feet in 2019 was we're going to see a boon for domestic producers of Chardonnay and Pinot because we're going to tax the heck out of these Burgundies. And we're going to punish these Burgundy producers for, I guess, being French and having something to do with Boeing, which I still don't understand. But, what happened is they said, we have a ready market everywhere. Like, we'll just sell these to China. And if you lose your allocation, getting it back isn't something that they turn on. If they've sold 2 vintages or 3 vintages to an importer in Korea, and I come back 3 years later going, hey, we have a new president, the tariffs are gone, we sure love to get that wine back, they've already made a market for it elsewhere. So it put us in the position of having to continue to buy despite the increased tariffs and try to find ways to, in our case, just cut your margin to zero. Okay, that's an option. And that's unfortunately what we saw a lot of us having to do was just slash to try to keep things moving. But you still might say, but Jonah, what about that great Sonoma guy who got all those sales all of a sudden? Because, well, we're also partners in a winery in Oregon that makes Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. There was no boon. There was no flood of activity and placements. So here we were selling these 2 same items, right? Oregon Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, which is outstanding and delicious by every right. And then saying to the guy, hey, Mr. French restaurant, the price of your Pouligny Montrachet has gone up. Do you want to switch it out for this Oregon one? They would just say, no, we'll just sell what we have in stock, dwindle that down, or we'll buy 1 bottle instead of 6 and see if we can sell it to the guy that comes in that wants it. So all it did was just depress everything. American companies didn't get a boon. There wasn't this huge replacement of these wines. By the way, you can't really do that with Barolo. There's not a domestic Nebbiolo that can fill the shoes of Bartolo Mascarello. So you're just kind of stuck, right? It really did just depress down the marketplace. And for an importer of our size, that just meant, okay, Sarah and Jonah, you're just, well, we usually don't make profit, but you're really not going to make profit these years. But if you were a bigger company, let's look at like a Winebow, right? Or a Chambers and Chambers. Sales reps who are paid on commission just had their commissions cut in half, right? Trucks, they had to mothball trucks and they had to cut routes because we're just not selling as much. The ripple ran through the industry in a way that I don't think we really, I know that I did not anticipate it being as impactful as it was. But when you start taking out that much revenue out of the machine, it's not the wineries in France that are paying the price. By the way, they don't feel that burden for years, right? It's going to be everyone through the system, the sales rep, the guy stocking shelves, the merchandisers, all through the run. And then ultimately customers with less choice and less opportunity to buy. We shrunk their buying power significantly to the tune of $240 million on the 2019 tariffs alone, just from the French wines. Those were money paid by American consumers, and it reduced their buying power. And it didn't have the reflected effect. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I play devil's advocate here?
Of course.
Let's say we put these tariffs in effect now for 25 years. Let's say for the next 25 years, we are going to put a 50% tariff on French wine.
Right.
Do you think there's any possibility that your said Oregon wine gets 25% better in 25 years or closer to French wine? I mean, like, what's the goddamn point of this? Like, what? I understand the greater point of the threat and the economic threat for this. I understand why it's such a tantalizing tool for somebody like Trump. But what I don't understand is how it's not just a bluff in the end, always. Like, how in the world could this actually work from a wine standpoint? Can it make the wine better? Can we turn, Temecula into Rioja in 25 years? Can this happen? Can we?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm asking stupid questions, so I deserve stupid answers, but
you're not asking stupid questions, Jason. It's just that you're a stupid guy. I mean, that's the real issue. Like, no, I'm kidding.
No, it's true. It's okay. I wear it.
It's right. These are the,
I'm playing devil's advocate because there's gotta be somebody arguing something like this. There has to be, because if not.
Yeah. The reason that Temecula is not Rioja isn't because of the lack of investment in interest, right? We have tremendous amount of capital ready to deploy in the wine industry, as you know. I mean, just look at what prices are being paid for current wineries or starting one anywhere up and down the coast, right? This isn't just a Napa thing. So it's clearly not, we need more capital, and we're going to find that capital by protecting the marketplace and not allowing foreign competition, right? So that argument falls a little bit flat because we know that we've got the capital ready to deploy. And the second one would be is that we're just going to change consumers' minds over time by not allowing them to purchase anything French or Italian because it's too expensive. They will learn to love Temecula wines for what it is, and they'll just be thrilled with it. The problem, as you and I know, is there's a reason that the fine wine industry is the most highly fragmented business in the world. You walk into a wine shop, there's not this many whiskeys, there's not this many vodkas, there's not this many beers. Wine is exceedingly fragmented because people love and cherish and value above all else that unique thing that one place can do, right? So you're not going to convince them that they were wrong and should have been drinking Temecula all along. You're just going to make it harder for American consumers to exercise choice and option. And that just sounds like the opposite of the American ideal, right? Is no, we want all the world's wines here. And as a producer of Napa wines, we'll just get better because we want to be better, because that's our craft. This is what we do. It's not because, you can't buy Bordeaux now. Okay, now Napa's great. No, it's the opposite. I want all that here. I want every wine here. I want to be drinking them and trying them. And as a producer, I want to learn and get better and see what our terroir can achieve. Now, a friend of mine, Jason, in the restaurant business said, yeah, but if we didn't have tariffs on Napa wine, maybe you would sell a lot in Paris. To which I just guffawed, because the reason we don't sell Napa wines in Paris isn't because of a tariff imbalance. It's because they don't drink Italian wine. They don't drink German wine. They
I
just
mean, you
drink
can get a
French
glass of
wine.
Chablis for €8 in Paris. I've been there.
Yeah.
It's pretty. They've got it locked down. Beaujolais is pretty everywhere, and so is Chablis. Those are like and champagne. It's like,
They
why
got it
would you?
covered. Yeah.
I,
But if we equalize the tariffs, it would be like 13 cents per liter. It's not that they tariff our wines and that's what makes them inaccessible to the Parisians. It's that Parisians are like, we don't want the Italian wine. Why would we want the American wine? Like, it's just, they don't give a shit, you know?
yeah, that's fair.
So I find that argument to be lacking as well. So I don't know where we're headed. Obviously, prognosticating this administration is
Well,
filled with
are you
pitfalls.
rushing as much wine as you can on a ship and trying to get it here? What's your
Yeah.
path?
So, right. So that's the first thing we did, was look at and say, okay, like, what's available. But guess what? If they haven't bottled it yet, they haven't bottled it yet, you know? So yeah, we're trying what we can. We front loaded some orders of stuff that was just being ready to go. And, we're hoping to land it before, most likely on the wine side would be, I think, April, because of the public comment period. But I don't know. I just hope it's, like many things, a big gesture that is quickly resolved because of a concession of some sort somewhere. Now, I don't know if what Mexico and Canada conceded to get this 25% tariff to back down, it was worth it or not, maybe. But I certainly tell you, it's hard to try to run a business where your cost of goods can fluctuate by 25 to 100% over the course of a week. It's just, it's an unfair disadvantage for American business.
Imagine an economy. You're trying to run an economy while that's happening. I mean, that's
right.
I don't even know what
brutal.
to say. Well,
No.
I remember just anecdotally, I remember being quite young. I'm a child of the 80s. And I remember Reagan. And there was our auto industry was in free fall. And this was at the time when Toyota and Honda were making cars that frankly were just much better than American cars. They lasted longer.
Yeah.
There was a gas problem at the moment, and they got great gas mileage. These were the Honda Civics and the Toyota Camrys and stuff like that.
Right.
Which went on to dominate. And everybody begged Reagan to put tariffs on the importation of Asian cars. And the funny part is, and I will never forget this, even being young and remembering that he said, no, we need competition. Right. I will not tariff these cars because American cars need to get better. And the only way they're going to get better is if the good stuff comes in and we have to look it right in the face and say, time for us. And that is an astounding thing to think coming from a Republican president in a, frankly, the auto industry was a huge portion of the American GDP at that point, and probably is pretty important now. For him to go, sorry, everybody, innovate. And that did happen. So regardless of what people think about, the politics or whatever side, that's an interesting opposite perspective to say, we're in the middle of probably the biggest egg shortage the United States has ever had. And our option right now is to bring eggs in from Canada and or Mexico. And guess what? There's a giant middle finger coming from them. They're like, have fun with your avian bird flu, because it's just, the whole thing. I'm not an economist, and I certainly am not smart enough to talk on this topic, but it does seem like you can't be an isolationist like we could pre-World War I. It just can't happen anymore. The world is too intertwined, and everyone's sitting on each other's debt. And it's just, God, do I hope that this is not just a bluff, but something that's not going to be a tactic moving forward. Because I really do think.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, if this is a lever that just gets pulled out every 4 years by either side, I don't care. And it's just used as a way to threaten and posture, it's going to be really tough. And as much as we, I just want everyone to remember too, is just how much, every time we sell a bottle of Italian or French or German wines here in America, just how many American jobs were created because of that. And this is not, if we don't have that, we'll just sell more of X, Y, or Z. A, we can't produce enough. Like, B, it's just not what makes fine wine the love that I think why you started, a streaming service about it, and why I've built a career around it, is fine wine is built on the love of all these wonderful nuances from places far and wide.
And I just the thought of you having
it's
to
a
pay
shame.
more money for your Stella Rosa bottle
Oh,
really makes me.
man.
I mean, you can't celebrate in 2025, really. Really,
is that a phrase that you and the girls use when you're like
no,
watching Selling
Angeles,
Sunset and stuff?
In Los Angeles, there's billboards as you're driving on the freeway that's like celebrate. And this
No,
episode
I
brought
love
to
it.
you by. I'm sorry, I just fucking can't. It's too good.
Oh,
Yeah,
celebrate.
I then that's the kind of wine that this would hurt. You know, a wine made out of
I
grape
think so,
must in Italy.
there's salespeople that are going to lose like money, and if they're not selling that, yeah, that hurts them. But think about all the people that it hurts that are American, and their jobs depend on selling that, delivering it, stocking it in the stores. There's merchandisers who are built around that. I don't know. Does it just go away? Is it replaced with something else? Is it not replaced at all? Like it's a big gamble, I think, for very little to no payoff.
I mean, I guess to close this conversation out, since obviously every time we talk about these tariffs or this, it's speculative. I mean, we don't. It's not like you are on this podcast saying I'm shutting down operations because of this, or
No.
this just enacted. But by the time we're done recording, for all I know, Trump might want to take over Antarctica. I really don't know what the hell's going on now, but so there could be interesting news developing in the next 10 minutes. But are you going to be able to stay an importer? Are you going to be able to keep doing this?
We will. And thankfully, because Sarah and I are a small 2-person operation, right? We don't have 10 employees. We're not trying to make payroll for other people, right? So because of the size and shape of us, yes, we can. But it does still, it becomes worrisome. You start to think about how long could we continue to do that? What's the real price elasticity for these products? And we're sticking with it, and we're not quitters. So we're gonna keep fighting the good fight and selling great wines and enjoying the ride. But boy, it certainly makes for it's just a lot of tension, a lot of heartache, a lot of anxiety, a lack of ability to plan, no forecasting, no loans available now. I mean, you just don't have the ability to forecast sales properly, and banks know that. So everything just gets tighter and worse for us, a small American company. And I feel like that's it's a shame. And I hope we get past it quickly, and we can get back to doing the things we love, like drinking Langhe on a Thursday afternoon instead of talking about tariffs.
Yeah, well, I think the other alternative is we can just go back to calling our wine Hardy Burgundy and California Chablis and American Champagne, and then we're fine. I mean, that's the solution here. I don't know.
I feel like I'm down for
up.
that. Yeah.
So good.
That's the solution we haven't thought of yet. I love it.
Good. Well, at least can you plug your website, your sales, where people might be able to get some of your wines? I know you don't have much; it always sells out. But I have tasted your Barolos, and they're fantastic. Everything you've ever brought in. So plug it at least, so people know where to go.
It's called truenorthwines.com. It's a collection of what we do and where we do. You'll see and read about the brands, and certainly on places like K&L and Wine Access and wine.com, you'll find our wines occasionally popping up on there. And I really encourage you to remember that these are also wonderful small families who are usually working on multi-generational plans of growing grapes and making fun wines and expressive wines from their little spot. And the one thing about every wine in our book, Jason, the family lives in the village where they make the wine. These are really, and mostly in the vineyard in a house that they've been in for multi-generations. And there's something kind of different about like when you sell wines like that you realize that, man, this is helping this small family who never would have access to this marketplace if it wasn't for my wife and her work, that now can feel secure that they can sell some wine in America, in California, in a way that makes them proud and makes us all proud. So check it out, truenorthwines.com. Read about them and look for them in restaurants and wine shops all around California.
Yeah, Jonah, you're the best. And obviously your wife is way better than you. For real, this is not, I'm not posturing. That's true.
No, that's undeniable.
I do want to say too, obviously, look, with Som TV, we've spent a lot of time trying to focus on a similar thing. We try to show the larger brands, show the larger companies and all of that stuff because it's important. But if you look at, there's a series we have called A Closer Look, which I think there's 55 episodes or something. And it's generally like, take a look at this region, but we try to do it from the perspective of somebody who's multi-generation, been there, knows the land, and they're teaching you about this Merceau, or they're teaching you about Rioja or wherever else. And I would encourage people to go to Som TV. And if you don't subscribe, do it. Private message me. I'll send you a discount code. If you are in the industry and you want to get Som TV for basically free, message me on the Som Films or Som TV Instagram, and I will give you a code that will be basically free for a year. I'm telling you. That's awesome. Because I think people should be able to watch this stuff, see these places, and it only makes people go, it's important to share the knowledge of all this wine and stuff easier rather than harder. So that's why these tariffs are slightly, I'm not a fan. Well, anyways, Jonah, thank you for being on. Of course, if something comes up, we invade Antarctica, and we'll have you on to talk about it.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm an expert on Antarctica. That is for sure.
Okay. And after this, we're probably going to record another Wine Cameos podcast because it's really what I live for. So, all right, everybody, drink your Barolo now, okay? Before it gets too expensive. Just chug it. Chug it all.
At least stock up.
Drink it. All right, everybody be safe. We'll talk soon.